1 week ago, the Track Midwest Cup Series smashed Sim TV records, amassing nearly 1,000 views in a week. Over 40 drivers entered the shenanigans at Virginia International Raceway, and we saw incredible action during the twin 15-minute races. Now we head to wine country in Sonoma, California, to a 12-turn road course, a part of the schedules for series such as NASCAR, IndyCar, Grand Am, the SCCA, and others. Tonight, it hosts round 2 of the Track Midwest Cup Series. With the season already 25% done, the race to the championship is already heating up. And Finian, the point situation, we're almost a quarter of the way through the season already, Finian, and that means the points are going to be very important heading into tonight.
Yeah, after last week, Kenneth Hausiel is leading the point standings, followed behind by DJ Alessandrini, and we might see a switch here. Alessandrini just being a little bit faster than Hausiel in practice, but we'll see how they do in the race. Alex Barroso in third, and there you also see the rest of the field rounding out. But yeah, these guys, considering there's only 4 rounds, you really can't afford to mess up and lose points, and you can really lose points by not gaining any points. Only the top 19 drivers in the field will gain points, and considering the amount of people we have here, that's only half the field that's going to come away with points in either race today.
Well, you talked about how many people we have here, Finian. I saw 45 cars on the grid for tonight. That is definitely another Sim TV record broken tonight in terms of how many cars are entered. You see, there's Kyle Herbst in the number 1 SpongeBob painted car this evening. But Finian, last week we had 41 at Virginia International Raceway. But tonight, Sonoma, it's a 12-turn road course, a little bit wider than VIR last week, and obviously presents a little bit of a different challenge.
Yeah, this track is arguably a little bit more forgiving. There's more runoff room to use. There's more curbing that you can use. So you can typically go wider in certain parts of the track. There's a lot of elevation change, and that can really affect the way these guys drive.
Absolutely, and the weather tonight is going to be nice and cool, which means high grip. Right now on the racetrack, 65 degrees in the air, 66 degrees Fahrenheit on the track. Mostly cloudy conditions. Going to be a cool night here in Sonoma. You see, there's the track map. Kind of looks like a key. But it's a very tricky racetrack. It's very technical, just like VIR, but the differences here are pretty insane in terms of the grip level. I would say, Finian, that Sonoma tends to be a little bit more slippery, especially in the stock cars.
Yeah, it tends to be a little bit more slippery, but that's why we're racing mostly cloudy conditions, so it should be relatively grippy for these guys to use. And I mean, especially in this car, then compared to most, this car is very twitchy when you're rolling the car, especially through the S section. We're going to see a lot of guys potentially lose control because all the weight transferring to one side of the car could upset it very easily. So we'll see how all these drivers manage to handle it tonight.
You see tonight drivers laying down the times at the moment, but one driver we're expecting to lay down a very good time is DJ Alessandrini in the number 12 car. Won a race last week, Vinny. That guy is going to be pretty unstoppable this season, and again, at the top of the board in practice speed tonight.
I'm kind of curious if he's out laying down a time. And he is laying down a time. He's on his... Oh, sorry, he hasn't crossed the line yet. He's on his out lap at the moment.
And he's going to be a tough one to beat here. He's pretty good in anything that we've seen, especially back in the Virtual Mars series, running the MX-5. He's a very talented racer, but right now at the top of the board, Rob Wilkinson in the number 37 Porsche, fastest right now with a 132.2. We saw times in the low 131s in practice. There's Ken Hausiel right where we expect him in the Brumos Porsche at a 132.2, sitting second on the grid. Austin Barnes, number 51, making his way up the hill right now after the carousel. James Patak in the number 721 in a Pennzoil colored car this week in the 911.
Yeah, Wilkinson too, notably 6th in points, so really could use a good finish here tonight. And if he finishes where he qualifies, he'll get a solid 50 points added to his name, and that can potentially boost him in the standings. But he's got some stiff competition. I mean, Hausiel is only qualified 0.03 of a second slower than Wilkinson.
Nathan Schlavine in the number 48 car, sitting in 20th right now, trying to improve on that time. You get 3 laps to make your best lap out here to grid yourself up for the race. And Finian, tonight more than ever, qualifying going to mean so much when there's only 2 15-minute races, and obviously we invert the top 10. So if you don't get yourself into that top 10, you're going to have a tough, long night ahead of you, starting from pretty deep in the field. So qualifying very, very important. You see the cloud cover up above, covering most of the sky, so this track is going to be a little bit grippier than we normally see it. And as I say that, Paul Darling jumps to the top of the board with a 131.9 in the 155 Porsche. Darling, another driver carried over from the Virtual Mars series from a couple weeks back. And he is up the top of the board ahead of Wilkinson now by 0.3 of a second.
Oh, and Pelota put in a very fast time as well. He jumps up to second and only 100th of a second slower than Darling, so very, very close up to the top of the field. Still waiting on Alessandrini to put down a time.
Danny Hagford in the 24 with a loose moment there heading into the hairpin and slides and loops it around. And Finney, we're going to see a lot of that tonight. A lot of drivers are going to have a lot of struggles in that braking zone because Sonoma is a pretty bumpy track on that side, and these cars are extremely unstable in the brakes.
Yeah, and I mean, you really, considering that these guys are braking while under elevation change, it could really throw these guys off. And you got to be on your toes here. It's a very tricky course, but in a different way than compared to VIR.
See Hagford working his way through the backside of the course now and into the final hairpin, and this is not the IndyCar layout, it's the long layout, so we use, I would say, the correct hairpin down here at the end of the course. And looking on board there, you see the 24 rounding it. It's a first gear corner down to about 30 to 40 miles an hour, and that's a great passing zone. Several passing opportunities around here on the racetrack, but let's take a moment and remind you about what we're driving here tonight, the Porsche 911 Cup car. The Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car is a single-seat GT-style race car based on the 991 Porsche platform. The Track Midwest Cup Series will race the 991 Cup car at Virginia International Raceway, Sebring International Raceway, Sonoma Raceway, and Circuit Guild Villeneuve in Canada. The engine is a 485 horsepower flat six, producing peak horsepower at 7,500 RPM and a peak torque of 480 Nm at 6,250 RPM. The aerodynamic shell of the 991 Cup car includes a widened 911 GT3 wing made of carbon fiber, as well as a carbon fiber splitter and underbody paneling. The braking system is composed of a multi-piece steel brake disc, internally vented and slotted with a 380mm diameter. 6-piston monoblock racing brake calipers grip the front discs, while 4-piston calipers grip the rear. The gearbox is a 6-speed sequential type dogbox transmission, which connects to the engine with a triple disc sintered metal racing clutch. Drivers will have to master this extremely challenging car without the help of anti-lock brakes, traction control, or stability control. It is a true driver's car that requires immense precision and talent to be fast. Welcome back live here to Sim TV, and now we're watching Ido Waxman work his way through the far side of the course into the S's section here, Finian. And now, this is a great place for downforce cars, but sometimes throwing a GT car around here can get pretty sketchy.
Yeah, it can be. Again, we were talking about the weight transfer in these cars, especially through turns like the S's. The weight in the car shifts from one side to the other, and if you're not careful on how much throttle you're putting in, how much you're turning, you can end up finding yourself spinning into the grass.
Another driver that we're familiar with from Virtual Mars is Dennis Barrett right now in the number 83 and working his way through the hairpin onto the front straightaway once more. And this isn't really much of a straightaway here. It's got two big kinks in it. One is called turn 12 and one is called turn 1. And what you'd think is turn 1 is actually really turn 2 up there at the top of the hill. As we see Barrett working his way up right now. No improvement that time by. And there he is climbing the hill towards turn 2, where most of the action will happen on the start here. We mentioned the chaos of last week at Virginia International Raceway. Now you see the 83 go out wide. You mentioned there's a little bit more runoff room here, Finian. Yes, there is on probably the infield part of the track, but the first part of the track, you're kind of walled in there, and that's going to mean drivers have to be extremely careful on the first half a lap or so not to get themselves wide, and that dried up grass is very, very slippery.
And especially, too, they got two corners facing, two corners going up the hill that they have to make, and those two corners are going to be turn 2 and I believe what's considered turn 3, or turn 3B.
3A, 3B, 5A. Yeah. The naming conventions of the Sonoma course are quite awkward, but yeah, what you're saying is turn 3, I would call turn 3.
Yeah, so that turn essentially, because you're coming over a hill, the car kind of jumps in the air and then sets itself back down. And again, not careful, you're going to spin yourself out. You can also go off track, because we've seen the 83 clip the grass coming out of 2. Also coming out of 2, clipping the grass, so that can really be dangerous. So you got to make sure you're in the black stuff, especially in the first sector of the track.
There's Philip Corset in the number 19 working his way towards the hairpin, and one of the great things about the Porsche 911 Cup car, Finian, it loves to curb surf, and those brightly colored yellow and blue curbs are quite fun and actually advantageous to jump over in these cars, and they will take quite a beating.
Yeah, I'm definitely sure, especially because pretty much to run an optimal lap here, you want to be taking as many curves as possible.
And we watch Corse climb the hill towards turn number 2. Beautiful evening here in Sonoma, California. Let's watch the curb usage here on the right. Misses that one there in turn 2, but I bet you when we get down to turns 3 and 3A here that we're going to see a pretty big jump over them. And there's a hit right there. And swing it back to the right, drill it, get the car up in the air. And these things really, the rear engine, they like to be launched in the air like that. They're quite stable under throttle application, so it's really advantageous for these guys to use as much curb as possible and to straight line as many corners as they can, as Corse now works towards the infamous carousel here at Sonoma, a very long left-hander known as turn number 6. So qualifying almost complete here, about 3 minutes left. Most of the drivers have taken times. There's still a handful that have not. Derek Austin in the number 41 is waiting on pit lane to go. And Finian, there's a lot of reasons why a driver might sit and wait to leave pit road, but I think one of them is mostly just to kind of catch people off guard or maybe to let the track get a little bit more rubbered in.
Yeah, I think that's what they might want to do. And honestly, not a bad strategy considering, again, we have a lot of cars here tonight. So by the time, and right now at the moment too, we have 40 cars that have put down a time. So if you're one of the guys waiting towards the end, that's 40 cars that put down rubber for about 2 to 3 laps. So there's a lot of rubber put down in that amount of time. So they're probably waiting for that to go through so they can put down a time. But they might want to be a little bit careful because the track temperature has gone up just a little bit. With all the heat that these cars have left by putting down the rubber. And notably also the cloud cover has dissipated just a little bit and has allowed that track to heat up. And obviously hot temperatures mean a slick track, especially here at Sonoma with the dark pavement. Let's see what other drivers are working their way around. There's Christopher Murray in the 49 we've been watching for a little bit. Stuart Reese in the number 47 on the front straightaway now. Brightly colored cyan rims on that car. He'll get another lap in here. And conveniently has a Reese's paint scheme on board that car, and a very good looking one at that. And as of this moment, 42 cars have put down a time, and we're still actually waiting on 5 more cars to put down a time. And there's I believe 47 cars. Yeah, 47 cars entered. That is insane. And there's Shane Patson, the number 909 Porsche. Quite a busy livery going on there with the Red Bull scheme. And nice splash of color on those rims, but he'll get a lap in as well. Jonathan Wheeler in the number 17 car. Also, whoop, going a little bit wide and into the fence. And that might be all she wrote for qualifying time for Wheeler, as I don't think he's going to have enough time to get back around the racetrack. And Christopher Murray working his way onto the back straightaway here. The back straightaway actually part of the drag strip here at Sonoma Raceway here, Finian. So that's a very wide area, but coming out of the carousel, lots of drivers like to push that track limit. Yeah, and again, that's another part where you really don't want to step on the grass there, especially with the amount of load that's going to be on the right side of the car. If you catch just a little bit of it and you're not careful in your throttle application, you can find yourself spinning out. And especially on the start when everyone's trying to push for a position, you can end up spinning yourself in front of the field, and I would not want to spin in front of a 47-car field. Absolutely not, and that's another thing, Finian. Mistakes are going to be so costly here in the points. Obviously, Finian, if you finish about halfway down the order, you don't get points at all, and these drivers need those points. There's only 3 rounds left in this series, 6 races left, and so if you have one bad night, you're going to be in trouble for anyone else that has a better night. Yeah, only 23 drivers are scored with points after the last round, so still a lot of guys hoping to at least get on the board. So qualifying is almost complete here. Shane is working his way around in that 909. Christopher Murray is still out on track as well as Jonathan Wheeler. Wheeler's trying to get a lap in here. I don't think he's going to. Qualifying is going to end here in about 3 seconds, and it'll give these drivers just enough time to complete the lap that they are on, but you cannot start a new lap, and actually, there it is right there. The end of qualifying. We'll set the running grid for you, but Andrew Pelota, your pole sitter here at Sonoma Raceway, as we get ready to go racing here tonight. And remember, standing start here, and this is a tricky thing for a lot of drivers in this field, Finian. Actually, this time we were getting a pace lap. Oh, great. Pace car. Is that a mistake, or am I just out of the loop here? I wonder. I don't think this is a mistake for here. I think probably because it's too awkward to do standing start here. About to mention that with the curved straightaway there, that would be quite the interesting standing start. So yeah, so we're doing a pace lap tonight. And last race, I mistakenly thought we were doing one, and tonight I thought we were doing a standing start. So whatever I think is clearly not correct. So we'll wait for everyone to get up, go for a lap around Sonoma Raceway, and check out the sights and sounds before we let the field loose for 15 minutes.
And at the end of that race, we'll declare a driver a winner, invert the top 10, and go for race 2 just shortly after. So don't leave after that short break, and we'll be back with more racing. My computer is going to melt with all these cars on the grid.
Mine's already, I can see the red bars on the side indicating that my computer is at max capacity, pretty much.
All right, let's take a look at our starting lineup here tonight. Not going to read it all the way across, of course, because there's too many people, quite frankly, to list off in this lap. But let's take a look. Andrew Pelota and Alex Barroso on the front grid. And obviously, both those drivers had quite good rounds last week at VIR. Looking for more tonight. They'll be starting in that first row in a great spot to finish well tonight. DJ Alessandrini, Paul Darling, 2 drivers carried straight over from the Virtual Mars Series, 3rd and 4th in row number 2. Both those drivers also a threat to win here this evening. You see Wilkinson and Hausiel in row number 3, but the rest of the field will scroll across the bottom of the screen there as we do our pace lap behind the rough RT12 pace car. And somehow I don't have 2 FPS. I have something like 20 or 30. All right, but obviously going to be a large grid tonight, and that means that the chaos up through turn 1 and turn 2 is going to be chaotic. Let's take a look. This is the view you're going to see in about a lap from now as the field takes the green, and you're going to get quite the vantage point as the field conquers turns 1 and 2 underneath that Toyota-sponsored bridge.
Yeah, you're seeing right now all 46 cars that have gridded coming across the screen.
And we'll take this moment to thank some of our sponsors for tonight. We want to thank Grid Life. Grid Life hosts music and motorsports festivals, time attacks, and more. All the links and the information to that is in the video description. And we also want to thank Auto Assets, your destination for sales, service, and performance tuning for automobile enthusiasts. Their link also provided below. Please check them out. They got some cool stuff going on. 9 Lives Racing, selling downforce wings for a low price engineered for your car, as well as Syndicate Race Photos. So there's your sponsors for the night, and those links are in the video description. And please check those guys out. They did a great job, and want to give them a huge thank you for supporting the Track Midwest Cup Series tonight in the 911s. This has been already our most popular series on the channel in the 11 months that we've been here. And while we do have some more exciting stuff coming up, this is currently pretty much the greatest stuff that we have to offer here on Sim TV.
Yeah, and also I want to just give a big thank you to everyone who watched the last round, with now being at over 850 views. One of the most, again, as you said, the most viewed video on our channel by a long shot. So just thank you to everyone for watching our content. You're essentially driving us to do more of it. So thanks to everyone at home.
All right, so we work our way down. We're through the S's now. And you can see all those cars, Finian, and last week we had a really good finishing rate considering how many cars we had start, and the couple accidents that we had were relatively minor. I expect more of the same tonight, so almost all those cars you see will probably finish tonight's race, but now the pace car is going to pull off and turn them loose for 15 minutes. Should be about 10 laps around here, but obviously it's done by time, not by laps, so as the pace car pulls off, it'll expose Andrew Pelota in the number 96 car to the green flag, and that HKS liveried car will bring them down to the green. 15 minutes on the grid for the second round of the Track Midwest Cup Series, brought to you by Sim TV. Green flag in the air here at Sonoma.
Okay, great to see drivers fanning out for position as they head up towards turn number 2, side by side.
And Pelota is struggling to hold on to that lead around the outside. Big pile up in the rear, got cars upside down. And a big tumble back there for a couple race cars, but I think the majority of the field got through, even though we got a couple cars tumbling wildly.
Ooh, big battle up front, though.
Oh, we got one spinning. Is that Darling in the 155 off the side of the racetrack, trying to get that thing recovered? Gonna lose 5, 10, maybe 15 spots here if he doesn't get that car rolling.
Yeah, he was side by side with Pelota trying to take away second, and Pelota lost his first position to Alex Barroso as they head off onto the drag strip.
And I'm going to pull the ticker away for a moment as all the cars that are resetting will jump to the top. But right now, it's a battle for that lead. Barroso out in front. And it looks like is the server having issues on your end too there, Finney, or is that just me?
Yeah, it might be just you.
Okay. Well, Barroso out in front in that 39 car. Again, very good last week. I believe finished second and maybe third or fourth in that second race. But out up front now with Pelota chasing. DJ Alessandrini behind. Obviously going to be one to beat, as well as Ken Hausiel and others. And Ido Waxman, a little bit of left front damage on that car with an identically sponsored number 11 of Jeremy Swenson behind.
And after what happened to Darling, he's going to jump back. He's going to fall back all the way to about 12th, and actually has some right front damage. As do a lot of cars. A lot of cars have quite a bit of damage. Probably trying to get through all the first lap carnage.
So Barroso has solidified himself as a solid contender after last week's performance, and also just wrestling the lead away from Andrew Pelota on lap number 1. Obviously, that was very impressive. Here is Jeremy Swenson closing in on Ido Waxman here. Battle for position. As well as, here's another big battle back here. Derek Yarbrough, Luke McGrew, and Eric Fleming, 17th, 18th, and 19th. And there's the McGrew car jumping a curb. Some wing damage on the right rear of that machine. And just behind, there's Adam Poland and Fleming. And McGrew drives to the inside of the 857. That is Derek Yarbrough, and serving a slowdown there, I believe. The 5 car is slowing way up.
He actually caught the grass a bit coming through that turn. Actually, that got him to slow down. Yeah, he's currently struggling. I think it might be due to some damage, but he's constantly falling down the grid.
Eric Kutil in the wall, heading into the hairpin. Some significant left front damage there, and that's just what happens here with so many cars heading to such a small apex. You're going to have some people fighting over the apex there, and obviously some big steering damage for Kutil, and that will probably be a retirement or at least some major damage for that car. But up front here, Finian, still a battle for the lead. Barroso just hanging on to Andrew Pelota. Pelota to the inside. Can't quite get the nose in there. I'll have to try again.
Yeah, this is really going to be, this battle is definitely far from over. We're seeing Pelota again with putting a blindingly fast time down in qualifying. Got him first position, but lost that to Barroso on the first lap. So he's been trying to get that down, but he's going to have to kind of hurry. He's got DJ Alessandrini and Ken Halseal behind, and they're definitely not letting up. In fact, they're closing in just a little bit on our leaders.
Let's take a look at who's in the catbird seat right now. Remember Paul Darling's horrific lap number 1? Well, he's sitting in a great spot right now. If the race were to end here, Paul Darling would be your pole sitter for race number 2, and obviously starting position, as we saw on lap number 1, means a whole heck of a lot, as you don't want to get caught up in the lap 1, turn 1 incident. But everyone right now has found themselves a little bit of space to work with here, with the exception of Jeff Pritchard and Brandon Cocker back here for 20th. These guys are nose to tail fighting it out. Oh, wow, the 63 car gets slow out of turn 2 and gets slowed up here, and here comes the 40 now to the inside, and will take that spot away, and Stuart Reese in the 47 will follow through as well.
Yeah, Reese and the Reese's Pieces machine, had to say it once, is going to work through the carousel here, getting past Jeff Pritchard in the 63.
And Jacob Reel in the number 8 car is gone up 6 spots already, but had a slow moment there a little while ago. Didn't see what happened to him, but he's got a little bit of right front damage. Doesn't seem to be hurting him. And we do have a couple cars that have just returned to the pits. Let's quickly check out what happened to them. And here is a look. I think it was what happened here. Might not be the car that was involved. And can't seem to grab that replay there, so we'll head back live. But Barroso has jumped out to now a 0.6 of a second lead, so extending his lead just a little bit. Last time through was 0.3 quicker than Pelota. Alessandrini quicker than Pelota ahead of him, so that 12 car closing in the gap just a little bit and bringing Ken Halseal with him.
And one driver who notably ran into some trouble on the first lap, James Patak, he's all the way back in 41st after starting 16th, and he was, I believe, running pretty well in the points.
Another car that just went for a little spin, Stuart Reese in the number 47. Reese's car got loose under the brakes. We talked about it in the qualifying situation, Finian. These brakes are very sketchy under high load, and there was also a big change to the tire model of this car this week, and that changed the handling for a lot of drivers, and some drivers didn't really like how it handled, so it's going to throw some people off. Kyle Herbst's in trouble right now. Oh, turns right in front of the field, in front of the 33 car. Or was it the 11? It was the 11, I believe. It was... Man, that is huge impact for Herbst, and that'll end his night.
That was Jeremy Swenson that got involved in that.
Man, a horrible collision here. Turns right up in front of the field, and nothing that Swenson could have done to miss that. Obviously, it's a hard situation there being a blind corner, but both those cars pretty torn up. For the lead, Pelota now still out in front, still by half a second. Derek Yarbrough now also stopped. He's got grid life on that car this week and didn't quite see what happened to him either. Here's a look at it. This was in the carousel, went wide, already had some left front damage, and just, drove straight into the tire barrier there. And that'll be the end of Derek Yarbrough's night.
Yeah, what we're seeing is that a lot of the guys with existing damage are starting to struggle here. And again, it's a short race here, only 15 minutes long. But I mean, when you have that damage, driving with damage, it feels like a race can take an eternity.
Battle for the lead still tight between Barroso and Pelota. We're right on board with the number 96 right now and follow Barroso down through the S's. You see Pelota trying to apex later. And we'll see what about their curb usage through here as well. Nope, we got Pelota's connection's a little spotty there. Maybe we'll look from the rear of Barroso. Very smooth for the leaders here right now. Here's Rob Wilkinson in the 37. Started 5th, running 6th, so things are going well for him. I'm pretty sure, at least on my end here, the server is really struggling with all these cars.
Yeah, also probably because the streaming thing, I don't think your computer is having a fun
It's melting.
time at the
It's
moment.
definitely melting. But here's Philip Corset in the number 19. And started 29th, so up 10 spots for Corset. This is a good result. I mean, again, when you start back in 29th in a 47-car grid, things are just not going to go very well. And so far tonight, doesn't have a scratch on the car, is maintaining a good run in that Porsche 911.
And one guy who's probably having a slightly better time at the moment is the 40 of Brandon Cocker. He's moved up from a starting position of 31st to 16th and seems to be one of the biggest movers in the race.
That is a phenomenal improvement there. You see him now climbing the hill for turn number 2. Oh, I love when my computer is absolutely melting. Battle for the lead. Here comes Pelota on Barroso now to the outside. And
Barroso going a little wide.
Gonna try to cross under, can't quite do it. And he'll have to try again. And Alessandrini's been slowly bringing these guys in together closer. So keep an eye on that 12 car as well as the 9 of Ken Hausil. He is obviously charging from behind as well. Don't keep him out of this fight just yet.
And really, the entire top 4 have kind of broken away from the rest of the field. So really, our winner is going to potentially come from these 4 drivers.
There's Austin Barnes in the 51. He started in 11th spot up to 8th. So up 3 spots for him. Paul Darling behind. Obviously, we talked about his struggles early. Started 4th, now running 9th. And Darling trying to gain some spots back. Remember, the field gets inverted here. And right now, Ido Waxman is in the perfect spot once this race is over in about 5 minutes. And there goes the 51 car. Barnes loops it around on corner exit. And we'll lose a couple spots, at least 2. But Barnes right now sitting in that spot to be your pole sitter for race number 2 at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about silver linings. At least he'll have that to work with.
Eric Pennington in the number 4 trying to chase down Barnes for that spot. Doug Metzel in the 44 Falcon car also in a pretty good spot here in 13th. He'll be able to start there or close to it if he maintains his position. Less than 5 minutes in this race. Alessandrini's made a mistake here, Finian dropped to 4th. Ken Hausil takes over 3rd. And that's not something you see a lot. Just drove in too hard into turn 6 and loops it around, swings out into the grass, and that let Ken Hausil drive right on by.
Yeah, and even Pelota had a lockup as well, went wide, but yeah, nowhere near as wide as what happened to Alessandrini. And luckily for him, he's able to recover, but has lost a valuable position to Kenneth Hausil. And again, these guys are really close in the points. Hausil leading only by about 3 points. So really, Alessandrini needs everything he can to get a leg up on Hausil, and this is not helping him at all.
Austin Barnes still hanging on to 10th for the moment. So right now we had 47 cars start and only 5 of them are off track. Actually, 5 of them are retired and off track. So there, we see that Austin Barnes runs wide and hello, who comes in? There's the 69 car. Although I believe that 69 machine is Bradley Adams. He is 1 lap down in 36th. And this is coming after a pretty rough race number 2 at VIR last week. Started up near the front, I believe on the outside of the first row, and slipped up in turn 3 at VIR, and lost a bunch of positions there. And obviously not a great start to the night here for him either. Here's a big battle for 25th spot. Jonathan Yu and Eric Kutil.
And Kutil is going to go up to the inside. He's going to make the pass work and actually try to get maybe 2 for 1 here. Trailing behind... actually, not sure who that car is in front of him.
It's Dan Capaldo there in the number 28 machine. As they climb the hill here, you can see Kutil trying to squeeze in underneath. Can't quite get the nose in there, but going to go for another shot here.
Yeah, this is a really tricky section to try to make a pass for because you go from, you switch back from one corner to the other, you're turning right, then turning left, so hard to really make a pass because you're on probably a worse opportunity in the next corner, so it's really tricky, and really, that's why we usually see
Welcome back live here to Sim TV. We want to apologize for the hardware failure that we experienced. I experienced. I'm not going to blame that on Finian. It was all me. At the end of race number 1 with about 2.5 minutes remaining, I had a blue screen, and my processor and graphics card did not like what was going on there with so many cars in the race. So I've adjusted some settings, turned some things down. Shouldn't look any different for you folks at home, but for the time being, that's what we're going to have to work with. And Finian, I know you're setting up just in case it happens again. Hopefully it doesn't. But obviously the end of race 1 was pretty spectacular, and I believe the winner of that race was Andrew Pelota in the number 96.
Yeah, it was Andrew Pelota in the 96. After what happened as they were entering the alternate layout of Sonoma, the long course, Barossa got held up by a lap car. Was trying to make a pass, and unfortunately they got collected, and Pelota was able to go around him and take the win on the last lap. So unfortunately we weren't able to cover that, but it's Pelota in first, Barossa second, Hausil third, Alessandrini fourth, and Thomas Foose rounding out your top 5 in race number 1.
All right, so with that updated, we're ready to go. So about a minute and a half remaining in warm-up, then we'll turn them loose for another 15 minutes, and hopefully the computer will make it through all 15, and the sun has gone down, the lights have come on, and we're time to go racing one more time here tonight. And with so many cars in the start of race number 1, we saw a big accident on lap 1, turn 1, Finian, and obviously that's going to be a danger in race number 2 as well, but we've inverted the top 10. So for drivers that are starting towards the rear again, what do you do differently after seeing the chaos in race 1?
I think we're probably going to see guys be just a little bit more conservative in turn 1, maybe being a little bit more cautious in the first sector of the lap, because that's really typically where a lot of these guys are going to get wadded up, spinning out, and they might just kind of try to tiptoe through there until they're kind of mostly ensure that they can get on with the race, because a lot of cars last time had a lot of damage just from little things, and I think they might have learned that it's better to be a little bit cautious considering how many cars we have here tonight. All
right, we're gonna go to break one more time real quick before we go live for race number 2. Stay with us. We'll be right back in about 30 seconds. Okay, there we go. And one of the other things that happened after that crash was for some reason the camera pack I was using got uninstalled. I don't even know how that makes any sense, but it has happened, and now we've got that all updated. Another thing I'm going to do real quick is reboot the ticker, as a couple of drivers have joined late and need to obviously get that ticker rebooted. So I just said we'd be back. We're going to be back one more time. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Finally, we were up to date and ready to go racing. There is your starting grid on the left-hand side of your screen. And Austin Barnes managed to hang on for 10th place. He'll be starting on the front row for this race tonight. And the rest of the field getting gridded up. We'll try this again. Obviously, we saw quite the carnage on the first lap heading up turns 1 and 2. Hopefully that doesn't happen again here in race 2. But Andrew Pelota will be starting back in the 10th spot after winning that first race. So he'll try again here to go up and charge through the field, 10 spots up the grid to get that extra win. So now you see, I believe we got 39 cars on the grid, so we're short about 8. And we're just waiting on a couple more drivers to get gridded up here, Finney. But what do you expect for race number 2?
I expect to see guys, again, like I said, just be a little bit more cautious, especially considering what they saw in race 1. Again, that's what I think. It might these guys might actually step it up another level and might try to be a little bit more aggressive, especially guys towards the back who know they don't really have too much time to get to the front of the pack and try to score some valuable points.
Field rolling off for one pace lap here around Sonoma Raceway. And there is Chris Boersma. We haven't talked a whole lot about that number 8 car tonight, but had a pretty good result in race number 1. That means he'll be starting in the second row for race number 2. Kate got, I think that's K-tuned on the side of that vehicle. Alex Barroso managed to slip away in the closing laps, and he will be starting position number 9. Ken Hausil and DJ Alessandrini be starting 8th and 7th, respectively. And the headlights are on here, Finian, so racing at night at Sonoma, or at least in the evening, is not something these drivers are probably typically used to. Sonoma is almost always raced during the day, so that changes the grip levels quite a bit as well.
Yeah, indeed, and these guys are going to have to cope with that change too, and especially also considering how much darker it is on the track, these guys got to be a little bit more wary about where they are, where other people are, where their apexes are, more importantly. So these guys have to do a little bit of learning here in these first few laps.
And obviously, take a look at the temperatures as well. 65 degrees in the air, 65 degrees on the track. That's in Fahrenheit. That is very cool, and that is the track temp now matches the ambient air temp, which means that it's not going to get any cooler here. So the drivers have to use every ounce of grip that they have available to them if they want to come home victorious here at Sonoma. I think anyone inside the top 15 has a shot at it, but I'd say really your top 5, and then I'd throw in your top 3 finishers from the last race. Pelota, Barroso, and Hausiel. Those guys are probably your most likely to win race number 2. Again, 15 minutes on the board, and we saw both races at VIR and the first race here tonight that it is an exciting race to behold, and if you're really 20th on back, it's just a survival situation. And starting 20th is Eric Kutil in the number 82, and he's about midway through the grid and has a long night ahead of him, even though it's only 15 minutes. Pace car rolls through the kink, heading towards the hairpin. You see 39 cars, and I think we're missing about 4 of them, so about 35 will come to the green flag. You see all the headlights there as they come down to the green flag for race number 2. Austin Barnes and Ido Waxman on the front row. Paul Darling, Chris Borisma behind. Rob Wilkinson, Thomas Foose in positions 5 and 6. Alessandrini, Hausiel 7th and 8th. Barroso and Pelota 9th and 10th. Green flag flies again for race number 2 here at Sonoma.
And here we see everyone filing up again towards turn number 1. And do we see the same amount of carnage we saw?
So far, so good. Don't see anyone out of shape just yet. Oh, we got one up upside down under the bridge. You're right there, Finney. You can't exactly see who it is. It looks like it's James Patak and William Griffin. And I believe Patak was the one that went upside down. We'll take a look at that later, but right now, we do have, oh, looks like the 17 Ido Waxman sideways. And oh, got more cars piling up. Barroso spins right back into traffic in the middle of the field. Where do they go? Around the spinning 39 car. And Barroso goes from 9th place to 21st and probably farther back than that as Austin Barnes hangs on to the lead through lap number 1.
And that is not what he needed. I mean, he was set for having a good race here and getting more and more points, but that's really going to set him back.
Heading into the hairpin, lots of overtaking going on here. You see Barroso trying to make up more spots here. Some contact behind, but I think everyone's going to get through here okay. Some curb hopping by the number, I believe that was the 15 car that took some curb. But up front, Barnes is driving away from Paul Darling right now, and Wilkinson right behind.
Yeah, we'll see how long Barnes can keep up this lead. He's got some very fast drivers behind him, being Darling and Wilkinson. So we'll see if they can chase him down, as well as Alessandrini in 4th, trying to improve.
Oh, is that Alessandrini? Oh, it's Pelota around. Pelota spins upside down on the front straightaway. The 96 car looped around. He got more cars crashing on the front straight, but big implications for our race number 1 winner. Pelota crashes.
Yeah, that was probably one of the worst places to spin out, and it actually looks like he got a little bit of help from Ken Hausiel behind.
Oh, man. Damage for Hausiel. Then this is where he tries to get rolling and pulls into traffic. We saw that in race number 1. Gets hit from behind and looped upside down. And that'll be the end of Pelota's night. A shame for that to come to an end so quick. Austin Barnes still out in front, but Paul Darling and Wilkinson battling for second on the back straightaway. Oh, got another one spinning. Oh, hard into the wall goes Chris, and oh, he gets hit from behind. More flippage. Eric Pennington going for a loop up on his roof, and drivers scrambling to miss it. And more carnage already. This one has turned out to be a race of attrition so far here tonight.
Yeah, it looks like Borsma, that started when he went off the track coming out of the carousel. And I was talking about earlier, you want to make sure you don't hit the grass coming out there, but he went way wide and came back across the track. And again, there's not really much place for these guys to go coming out of a blind turn like that.
Well, Paul Darling has set his sights on leader Austin Barnes, and now he's charging up and coming. See the sun setting off in the distance, but Darling is closing that gap right now. Jumps the curb and is closed in. I think this might be getting closer and closer for Barnes. He's out in front just by about a tenth or two, but Darling's closing that gap. I expect we'll see a pass for lead here in a moment.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, this is kind of redemption for Darling after what happened to him in race 1 that put him back a lot of spots. But now here he has a chance of winning a race, and I'm sure he's going to take every opportunity he can to get that win.
And through the carousel, the long left-hander, you're trying to set yourself up for a straightaway here. And it looks like Darling's going to get a fantastic run out of it and head down towards the hairpin there, turn number 7. And closes in right on the rear bumper, trying to swing it around and hit this late apex right up against the curb and launch into the S's. And launch an attack on Austin Barnes. And
Darling has to make quick work here. You can't just wait around to get around Barnes, because he's got Wilkinson and Alessandrini right behind, breathing down on him. So he needs to get around Barnes in a hurry and try to get as far away as possible from them, because he's driving in front of 2 very quick drivers.
And mentioned how little the carnage was in race 1, even though there was such a big wreck on that first lap. There's about, I see about 10 cars, maybe 11 out of it early. So this one has been a lot more of a challenge for these drivers. And you see Darling close in even closer now. Getting ever so closer to that rear bumper. Now Wilkinson is just waiting in the wings, and look who's behind him, the 21 of DJ Alessandrini. Didn't quite have the race number 1 we would have expected, but now running P4 and closing on the leaders.
Ooh, Darling went really wide in turn 2, and that's allowed Wilkinson to close up. So now our entire top 4 have kind of closed in on each other together, and now it's a matter of fact of who's going to win.
Alessandrini right on the rear bumper of Wilkinson. Heading into turn number 4. And yeah, these top 4 have kind of converged on themselves, but Barnes likes what he sees out the rear wing. He can see those cars getting a little bit farther away as Darling's having to hold off Wilkinson and Alessandrini. And any distraction is a good distraction for drivers behind you.
Yeah, but I'm sure he's not going to be too happy with the fact that he's got probably the fastest 3 drivers on the track right behind him as Alessandrini tries to dive up on the inside of Wilkinson.
He's going to get that spot and clear Wilkinson there. You see a big curb jump for the leader, Barnes. Now Darling's got to hold off one of the fastest drivers in sim racing, Alessandrini, closing in now. He is coming and coming fast. Remember, he started back in, I believe it was 7th or 8th place. And right on the rear bumper into the kink, heading towards the hairpin. And, oh, Darling misses the apex there a little bit, and it looks like Alessandrini's going to clobber it, climb over the curb down into the hairpin. Will he take a look? See Darling punt a few cones out of the way.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he was able to take advantage of that, so Alessandrini's going to have to sit behind Darling for at least a few more corners to try to make another move.
Top 3 all on top of each other. 8.5 minutes to go, getting closer to the halfway point of this race. Darling drives in hard into turn number 2. But for now, it looks like these guys have settled down. Let's go check out the rest of the field here. It looks like everyone's pretty spread out. There's a pass for position there. Yarbrough and Nathan Bookbinder there trading spots, and Brandon Abbott just behind them. But there's even more action going on in the hairpin. There's Danny Hagford and Chris Murray side by side on the front straight. Now the relatives are finally restored on my ticker. They weren't showing up for the first little while, but there they go.
Yeah, Murray's going to be ahead of Hagford. Oh, Hagford tries to look up the inside, can't get it done.
He tries to climb the curb there, and that's the thing you can do here at Sonoma, is use those curbs to your advantage, and Eric Kutil has gone around up in turn number 1, I believe. That's climbing. Actually, no, that's down in the carousel area. And we saw this happen to another driver. I don't remember which one it was. But this definitely happened to race 1. You see, he just hits that grass on the inside, loses all the grip, and slides up onto the berm and gets stuck up there. And you don't want to be there. You want to be up towards the front. Now for the lead, Paul Darling has gotten around Austin Barnes.
Yeah, looks like he was able to make that pass in the hairpin.
Oh, Barnes gets into the fence and the entrance to the hairpin, and Alessandrini is going to take over that spot as well. Let's take you back and watch the pass for the lead.
Yeah, I just realized it should probably specify which hairpin, because I just realized that there's two.
Yeah, here's the pass down into the first of the two hairpins. And just a nice, very clean pass for Paul Darling on the inside, and took it away from Austin Barnes.
And also Barnes is now falling back to third as Alessandrini is able to get around him, so Alessandrini going to set his sights on the leader, Paul Darling.
Here's Bookbender and Eric Coutil in the 82, battling on the front straightaway for 12th place.
Yeah, Coutil trying to rebound from that spin that he had earlier.
Oh, wow, we almost had three-wide action there for a minute on the front straight. Max Lupfer, Dan Capaldo, and I believe that's Luke McGrew. Yes, it is, in the number 5 car, climbing the hill for turn 1. And still side-by-side, the 10 and the 82 battling for 12th. That's the carousel again. We saw Coutil go off wide the last time. He's going to get it collected this time through and launch a charge on that 10 car out of the carousel, right on the rear wing. Going to look on the outside, maybe to the inside here as we head to the hairpin. Whoa, into the dirt goes the 82.
Yeah, he looked to the inside, also took a little bit of grass with him. As he's trying to make the pass, can't get it done. The 10 of Bookbender is going to get it around Coutil, and he's going to have to try again on the other side of the track.
Pass for position for third. Rob Wilkinson takes it away from Austin Barnes in the 51. He slipped from pole down to fourth, so it'll still be a good day for him.
Yeah, and also note these guys they've lost about 3 or so seconds to the leaders. So I'm kind of curious something happened with them.
And while you're saying that, Finney, we got a another flip over, rollover accident. Luke McGrew involved. And this might have been, I'm trying to see who else it was. Oh, he gets hit from behind. Oh, the curb slide from, I didn't see what car that was. But he gets knocked over on his lid. We've seen several cars on the roof tonight. But you mentioned the gap to the leader. Darling is driven away to 0.8 of a second, but it's coming down quickly as Alessandrini ran a half a second quicker last time through.
Well, Alessandrini, though, off the track. Trying to make up time on Darling.
And Alessandrini's no stranger to using those track limits to his advantage. Just right on board here. Obviously, quite dark out the windshield of this car as well. Very difficult to see here around Sonoma Raceway without lighting. The only illumination provided by those headlights. You see Alessandrini climb the curbs again, using those tires to hook the curbing and loop that car towards the apex. And it's working for him. He's now closed in on Darling. And through the hairpin makes up a lot of ground. Now will Darling be able to run away on exit?
Yeah, man, this race has gone by in a flash considering all the carnage has gone on. There's only 4 minutes remaining in this race.
Austin Barnes looped around in turn number 1, Finney, and he's got major... Oh, he gets drilled by Barroso. Huge impact. Over the wall he goes.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Barroso actually had a pretty decent recovery considering what happened on lap number 1, but that's effectively going to mess his car up to the point where I think he might actually have to come into the pits to repair that.
He actually, I mean, oh man, oh, horrible collision there. He had damage from, he must have hit the wall in the hairpin because that car was weaving down the front straightaway with steering damage, and now you see him trying to limp back down to pit road, but that car completely destroyed. That's Barroso right now in the 39. Remember, he had nowhere to go and drilled Austin Barnes. We've seen that a couple times tonight, fitting around the blind corners, drivers rejoining right in the path of oncoming race cars.
Yeah, Barroso really struggling right now. He's off track in the carousel trying to get this thing to turn. I can imagine this car is in no drivable state whatsoever.
And probably a frustrating result for Barroso here. As obviously Barnes rejoining right in front of him. You never want to see that, but it's so hard. All the corners are blind, and with only local yellow flags enforced here, Finney, and it's going to happen eventually.
I think one driver who was kind of happy that that happened was Hausiel, who's been kind of struggling ever since he got some damage on the first lap, getting in contact with Andrew Pelota, is now moved up into 4th place.
And closing for 3rd as well, ran almost a second and a half quicker than Rob Wilkinson last time through, and quickly closing in on that 3rd place number 37.
Yeah, Wilkinson has some left front damage as well, so I did think he's going to be off the pace. And both these drivers are going to try to fight for the remaining podium spot.
Battle for 12th place right now. Ryan Carwile and Alex... Actually, that's not Barroso there. That is the 71 car. And that is not a battle for position... Oh, yes, it is. That's Ryan Carwile. It's Bookbinder in front of him there.
Yep.
And just up the road, remember, Gutierrez running wide in the carousel is now P9 here, Finian. A phenomenal recovery from what could have been a big mistake. And there's Stephen Pruden there in the 8th place, number 15, trying to hang on to that spot, but Eric is coming hard. Well, we got a minute and 30 seconds remaining here, Finian. Next time by should be white flag. Paul Darling is leading, but only by 0.6 of a second. Alessandrini is closing. Do you think he has enough time?
I think he's, I don't know, I think it might be, he might be in a good spot here. Last time through, both these guys ran times identical to the 1,000th of a second. But I don't know, Alessandrini went really deep in there, so Alessandrini's really going to have to pull something out here on this final lap.
Well, he ran wide in turn 10 and almost ran into the wall. He was so wide, but he's closed that gap now to 0.5 a second. And that time by, he was a 0.5 a second quicker than Paul Darling, so he has enough time to get there. He's got 11 corners to do it. Make it 10 as they work their way through turn 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's now more of a question, does he have enough to make the pass on Paul Darling? I'm sure Darling's not going to make it any easier for him than it has to be.
Jumping curbs, using every bit of racetrack. Paul Darling slides into turn number 3. Now climbing the hill towards the carousel. The gap is 0.4 of a second. Now Alessandrini is closing. Probably the most important corner on the racetrack. The carousel now. Alessandrini hauls it in full speed. Tries to get the advantage. Runs wide. Now he's got an apex late and try to get a run at Darling on the back straight.
This is a good opportunity if he can try to close the gap here, but I don't think he'll be able to. He has to probably make it the pass in the other hairpin on the opposite side of the track, only with a few corners remaining.
He closes in now. It's less than 0.3 of a second, right on the rear bumper. It's right on board with Alessandrini as he works through the final half a lap here at Sonoma.
Yeah, he's going to be trying to ride right in behind Darling. We're going to see this pass. If anything, it's going to be in the final hairpin.
And will Paul Darling make a mistake? If he makes a mistake, it's all over. The white flag officially flown. We're coming back to the checkers this time. There's 2 corners left, and DJ Alessandrini's going to have to sail it. He's wide in the gravel. Can he make a pass? Paul Darling drives in hot. Alessandrini spins. He loops it around. Where's Wilkinson? Coming down the back straightaway. Alessandrini tries to get a collected. Checkered flag flies for Paul Darling. He'll collect a victory. Alessandrini, disaster, will come home 2nd place. Wilkinson 3rd. Ken Hauseal going to pick up 4th place. Thomas Foose in the 27. Started in 6th place. Will maintain that and finish 5th in that number 27 Porsche. Wow, what a finish.
Yeah, what a finish indeed. Christopher Porter going to come home. He's coming out of the hairpin right now. He's going to come home in 6th place, having a pretty quiet day relatively compared to the guys around him. Eric Coutel is going to come out of the hairpin. He's going to finish 7th.
Here's a pass going on. Nathan Bookbinder and Ryan Carwile going wide around the outside. Not really anywhere he can go here. All the way out to the wall. Almost scrapes it. He's got Danny Hagford with a damaged race car trying to finish behind. Brandon Abbott, Jonathan Yu. Philip Corse is still working his way through the S's. But Barroso, with a repaired race car, trying to make up a little bit of ground. But that's Corse right there that he's trying to chase down. It's not going to be enough. Barroso will come home 17th place. And
it might be enough.
Not quite. Corse is the orange or the blue car right up the road.
I thought Corse was the other car. Oops.
Yep. Capaldo will come home in 18th place. Nathan Chavin in the number 48 will come home 19th. Christopher Murray 20th, and Jacob Reel will be the last car on the lead lap in 25th place. What a crazy race, Finian. And this time we made it through all the way through without my computer absolutely giving up.
Yeah, and hopefully it stays like that after the race when we get post-race interviews from notable drivers, the top 3, and whoever else we would like to interview.
And we're going to do interviews for race number 1 as well here in a minute. Obviously, we didn't quite have the time to get it after race 1, so as the field works their way around, we'll be right back with you in a few minutes with interviews. Stay with us. Welcome back live here to Sim TV. We're here with Race 1 winner Andrew Pelota in the number 96 car. Andrew, obviously Race 2 didn't go very well, but Race 1 went spectacularly, even though we weren't able to catch that final lap there. Walk us through the end of that first race and also what happened in Race 2.
Well, in the first race, I was pretty much just following Alex for most of it, and to be honest, I didn't have a whole lot for him, so I was pretty content with just trying to bring home second. But then we got caught up in some traffic, and Alex kind of got stuck in somebody, and that was kind of my chance to make a move, and it was on the last lap, and that worked out in my favor. Then I guess I paid for it in Race 2 because Ken got into me a little bit in the last hairpin, and trying to recover, I just got blasted by the rest of the field. So the rest of Race 2 is pretty much just practice laps at that point. But it was a racing incident, so what can you do?
And obviously there was quite a few incidents in race number 2, significantly more than race number 1. What do you think contributed to Race 2 being a little bit messier than the first one?
Well, it was definitely darker, which didn't help. So some of the visuals weren't quite exactly the same, and the conditions were a little bit different. I thought the cars actually felt better once I got back to the pit and repaired, but yeah, the visuals, and especially with the mixed or the reverse grid starting, definitely adds an extra layer challenge on that second race.
All right, Andrew, obviously a good round for you either way. It's going to average out to probably about 12th or so, but that first race, very good for you. That second race, not so much, but obviously looking forward to next week.
Yep, thanks.
All right, thank you. Thanks a lot, Andrew. We'll see you later.
Giving you room. But
all right. Oh, hey, Alex. Sorry to drag you out of your conversation there. Well, unfortunately, we weren't able to catch the end of Race 1 due to a hardware failure on our end, but race number 2, I'm trying to figure out where you finished, actually. Barroso.
Way back.
Oh, 17th. Yeah, so not a great race 2 for you either. We were just talking to Andrew Pelota, and he said that the darkness made it significantly more difficult to see. Walk us through why you think Race 2 was a little bit messier, and also talk to us about the end of race number 1.
So I'll start with race number 1 there. I think Andrew and I had a great battle. We were running through the whole time. I got a little bit of a jump on him on the start and just kind of held it for a while, and we were back and forth. And then we were starting to get in the lap traffic, and on the last lap, I got a little aggressive with a lapper going into like turn 4 or 5, and I stuck my nose in. I had the overlap, but he turned down, and I kind of punted him on me. It was kind of a 50-50. I didn't really commit to making the pass, but I did have the overlap, so it was just one of those racing incidents. But other than that, race 1 was really fun.
And obviously race 2 didn't go quite as well. And if I remember correctly, the incident you were involved in was on the front straightaway, heading up towards turn number 1. And I believe it was Austin Barnes, the one that pulled across your nose, and the issues there. We saw a lot of incidents from unsafe rejoins tonight, and obviously that's what I believe took you out tonight. What do you think should be changed about that for maybe next week?
Not too much. We had the inverted start, and that was kind of crazy. I actually worked my way through Ken and DJ. I got pretty lucky on the start there, and I was feeling pretty good. I was getting up to top 5 or so, I think, and then got turned when we were all really close together. It was just kind of a racing incident. There was a car flying across the grass, and there was 2 cars underneath, and I thought it was only 1. I didn't see 2. Otherwise, I would have given them more room, but I was kind of focused on the spinning car ahead. So that kind of sent me back, I think, out of the top 10, and I was kind of fighting my way back, and wasn't going to catch the leaders, but just trying to get some points. And yeah, Austin had a spin on the front straight, and then I talked to him afterwards. He said he just saw the concrete wall ahead of him. I saw lights on the inside, so I committed to the outside, and then he went to the wall that he thought was closer. And I think that would have ended really bad in the real world.
Absolutely, but obviously, thankfully, you don't have to worry about injury here within iRacing. But again, not as fantastic round for you the second race, but hopefully better luck next week. And thanks for talking to us, Alex.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
No problem. All right, next driver we're going to talk to is waiting for Vinny to pull him down. Paul Darling, the winner of race number 2. Paul, obviously that race went very well for you. Obviously, in the past, you've been very close to winning a lot of different races, but tonight you finally broke through and won another one here in the Porsche, the Track Midwest Cup Series in that 155 car. Walk us through race 1 and race 2. Obviously, race 1 didn't go quite as well, but still a decent finish.
Yeah, race 1 was a bit of a disaster. Definitely got caught out on the cold tires. Hadn't had enough practice with the new set, the new tire model update. So I lost a lot of positions on the first lap when I had a little half spin there, but worked my way up to 8th and got a good starting position for the next race and just made the most of it.
When you have drivers like DJ Alessandrini, Rob Wilkinson, Ken Houseal, and others chasing you down, what are your experiences with jumping curbs in this car? Obviously, it's a very curb-friendly machine, but Sonoma can be quite unforgiving at times. And how much of the track can you use in this Porsche 911 Cup car?
I've found you could use a lot of the track. I definitely wasn't very fast sometimes when I used an excessive amount of it, but this Porsche does seem to handle the curbs very well.
All right, Paul. Well, obviously, congratulations on a victory tonight, and good luck next week. It's great seeing you up towards the top of the board.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
You too. And I believe...
Man, I saw you pulling out...
Oh, hey, DJ. Sorry to pull you from your conversation. Well, another good round for you, and going to come home second in race number 2, and I believe fourth in race number 1. So a good round all around for you tonight, but a little bit close, but no cigar there, heading into the last corner trying to catch Paul Darling. Walk us through the finish.
Man, so I was studying Rob, trying to figure out where to get by him, and then he took it real easy on me. So all that studying went to waste. So then I had to start studying Paul to figure out where he's weak, and I figured out that he was weaker than me in the S's leaving the NASCAR hairpin, turn 7. You know, the S's that crest over the hills.
Yep.
But by the time I got to him, the aero wash in that section was delaying my throttle input, so I wasn't catching him as much as I was before. I was planning on getting him on the last corner, but because of the aero wash there, I wasn't able to get him. Now, I did have a good draft behind him going into turn 7, that really square, weird hairpin. And
yes.
I just, every single time I was close to him and I'd get a good exit out of there, he would also get a good exit. So I had plans. They just never came to fruition. And then I was just kind of hoping he was going to mess up the last corner at the end there, and he didn't. And then I caught this this bump that's on the, I was hoping to shine my headlights, because, you know, when there's a car behind you and all you see is headlights, I was hoping he would overreact to my headlights being angled at his right mirror. But I hit a bump there, and that I normally wasn't hitting, just by staying on the left side of the track. So the car got a little twisty turny, and I just wanted to keep it out of the tires, because sometimes you get stuck in those things and then the whole race would be over. So I was like, I'm happy to spin over here. This is fine.
Well, the point situation, I don't know what the updated standings look like right now, but the point situation is going to be quite good for you. So with 2 rounds remaining and 4 races left, what is your attack for the next couple weeks? Is it just go out there and continue trying to do what you're doing, or is there going to be a more conservative effort to try to maintain your points advantage?
It's I think I'm only in the lead by 1 point over Ken right now, just for the whole season. So it's just going to be making sure to grab points, because as Andrew Pilata and Alex Barroso found out today, like, if you're in any kind of incident and it drops you back, that's it. Like, because it's only, you know, we're only doing 8 races, so, and there's no drops, at least as far as I know. So if you get an outside of top 10, really top 5 finish, that's probably it for your championship hopes. So I knew that going into the race, so I wasn't too risky in any kind of situation. And I don't want to say I wasn't sending it, because I definitely was, but it was like calculated aggression in specific parts of the track, or depending on where my placement is. So during the race, I'm thinking about the points for sure. But, you know, I still want the win. It's a bummer that I didn't win a race today, but I think I came out ahead on points. So I'll take that in the next week. And these guys are bringing it. So I got to bring it back, because right now I'm getting beat on pace. I'm just beating them on consistency.
All right, DJ. Well, obviously another good week for you, and we'll look forward to seeing you up at the top next week again. Thanks a lot, DJ.
Thanks, guys.
All right, and I believe our last one for the night will be Rob Wilkinson, driver of the number 37 car, came home in P3 in race number 2. Rob, it's been quite crazy out there tonight, but solid podium finish for you in race number 2 in that Stop Tech Canon-sponsored machine. Obviously a great race for you, even though it was a little chaotic in the second race.
Yeah, it was, you know, about halfway through I started asking myself if I should have practiced in the dark a little bit more, because it got definitely a little bit darker than we were expecting.
And obviously the darkness played into a lot of the accidents towards the rear of the field. So how do you change your driving style in the dark? Is it more of a memorization process of where your apexes are instead of a visual thing? Or is it you just kind of shine the headlights where you want to go?
No, it's absolutely muscle memory. I think just hitting the marks and staying clean is really, really important. And when you get to the point where you can hit your marks consistently, you're turning in before you see the apex, but you know that it's going to show up for you. So yeah, it makes it difficult, but it also makes it, you know, kind of.
All right, we got a couple other great racetracks coming up. Circuit Villeneuve in Montreal, Canada, as well as Sebring in Sebring, Florida. And of the two, do you have one of the two that you prefer more than the other? I mean, the bumps of Sebring are always fun, but the curb hopping at Montreal is my personal favorite.
Yeah, I personally have more experience at Sebring. I've run quite a bit there, and I used to do some official iRacing races, the 2.4, so where we ran through the night. So I'm quite fond of Sebring, but Gilles is obviously a really fun track too, so we'll see how.
All right, well, solid podium finish for the number 37. Rob Wilkinson, thanks for talking to us. We'll see you next week.
Yep, thanks, guys.
All right, and that will wrap up the interviews here tonight. Finian, obviously, again, we have to apologize. I have to apologize because I'm the one that actually streams from my computer, so I have to apologize for the system crash I experienced at the end of race number 1, and I'm going to take some efforts to make sure that doesn't happen again. And what I did in race number 2 is turn some graphical things down, and had a much better experience this time. Also having about almost 15 less cars this time helped a lot, or 7 or 8 less cars helped a lot too. So we're going to try to change some things to help that from happening again. But Finian, both races again, spectacular racing, but notably a lot more incidents in race number 2.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious as to why that is. There really wasn't. There's nothing really much different other than the fact that one was set at night and one was set in the late afternoon. I guess drivers, being a little bit more aggressive. I guess maybe because they felt like they were more comfortable with the track. I guess thought that they could make some more moves. And unfortunately, from that aggression, I think we saw a little bit more incidents between drivers. But still, great racing nonetheless between all these guys. And also, just an update on the championship battle. How Sila and Alessandrini are currently tied going to the last 2 rounds. Well, that's going to be an extraordinary thing to watch the next couple weeks. We've seen some spectacular racing, especially towards the front of the field. Well over 40 cars again tonight. Everyone, I want to thank everyone for watching again. Smashed another record tonight. 47 live viewers, 51 total view time hours just during the stream alone tonight. We want to thank everybody for watching this. And we got 4 more races and 2 more rounds coming in the coming weeks. Circuit Villeneuve, as well as Sebring in Florida in a couple weeks. And there is some other very exciting news that SimTV is going to share very shortly after the conclusion of this event. So stay tuned on SimTV's Twitter, Facebook page, and website, all linked in the video description. And thanks again to our sponsors, Grid Life and Syndicate, as well as Auto Assets and 9 Lives Racing. Thanks for everyone for watching, and we'll see you next week.